I'm Alice Antoinette, and if you don't know who I am, I'm a traveling freelance model. And so if you're returning to my channel, welcome back. If you're new, hello. I have a lot of advice that I'd like to share on this channel, including advice about the model photography industry. And so for today's topic, I would love to talk to you more about how I book my tours as a traveling freelance model. It can be a little scary not working with agents, but also very freeing. Back when I was in high school, I never thought that I was going to be a model when I grew up. I always thought that a true model had to be agency represented. And to be frank with you, I didn't think I was tall enough for that. I'm only 5'4" on a good day. I'm more like 5 feet and 3/4. But back in the day, I was told that agencies only looked for models who were 5'7" and up, which ended up not being true, but that's a whole nother topic. So honestly, I didn't even try applying to an agency. I started out my career by booking my own photo shoots, and I found that over the years, it was actually easy enough to book my own photo shoots, and that I didn't need agency representation. So today, I wanted to touch on how I got started in booking my own photo shoots, because I know how daunting it can be, but if we break it down step by step, you'll find that it's actually quite easy too. So first things first, what exactly does the word touring mean? Well, a modeling tour can look like a number of different things. Typically speaking, it's hard to make money in your hometown, so many models are expected to travel around for their work. This can be so exciting and fun for somebody that's new to traveling and has that itch to see new things and have new experiences. For some models, touring can look like booking a flight for a long weekend, which is something that I typically would do, and booking photo shoots in one city. For others, tours could be more regional, and models may decide to drive themselves around from location to location. And some models even live out of a van, while others will choose to take public transportation to get from point A to point B. In a nutshell, traveling models who conduct tours visit different cities in order to earn enough income from greater pools of photographers, which is way more of a reliable income stream than, say, if a model were to stay more stationary in their hometown and simply hope for the best that paying photographers are going to pass through their city. Now, if you're an aspiring model looking to book your own tours, the biggest question that you may have is how do you stay safe doing that? I get into the nitty-gritty specifics on my course material, which I'll have linked in the description for you for reference, but to summarize for the big picture of things, you're definitely going to want to background check your photographers before committing to bookings. Personally, I haven't had any tragic photo shoots, and this is always because I maintain professionalism during my booking process, and I also make sure I do all of my homework and background checking before ever solidifying a photo shoot. Now you may ask, how does one begin to background check a photographer to make sure that they're safe? Let me just start off by saying that as a freelance model, your job is not 100% guaranteed as safe. Anytime that you meet up with people, they can choose to react in any way that they want to, but there are definitely systems in place that ensure my safety almost 100% of the time and will also work for you. Don't get me wrong, I've heard the times that models run into shady characters, but if you stay strict with your background checking before solidifying bookings, the risk that you have for running into trouble is greatly minimized. I don't want to scare you from touring. I just want to make you aware that this is not your typical 9-to-5 job. You do meet up with people that you schedule with online, and there's many times that I go to a photo shoot and I don't even know what that photographer looks like before getting there. What I do know, and what I think is most important, is that the photographers that I choose to work with highly value their reputations, and they definitely don't want to mess that up. The two most critical points that I check for with each individual that I book with is if they have model references that I can readily speak to that are linked within their portfolio, and if that photographer has a current and updated portfolio. Now, I do delve into this topic thoroughly through my courses, but I do believe safety is paramount, and safety should always be publicly stated as a standard. Modeling in today's day and age is a lot safer than it used to be, before the rise of the internet as a resource, because now you can speak directly to other models who have worked with a photographer and ask about their experience firsthand. I specifically will look into a photographer's portfolio to see if they have tagged images of models readily available. I don't just typically go off of a list of models that they provide me, because this is usually going to be a list of models that they know would vouch for them, and not necessarily a list of models that are going to give the most diverse, experienced answers. And I'm always sure to speak with models of all skill levels, whether they're newer or very experienced. Never just go off of seeing big name models in a photographer's portfolio, because that photographer may treat the well-established models differently than, say, aspiring models or newer models. I prefer to ask models that are directly linked in the photographer's portfolio for their experience, because the photographer will will always want to show the images that they've shot, but they may not necessarily know if the model in the photos had a good time or not. By checking directly with models that are tagged in the photos in a photographer's portfolio, you're going to get the best results for more accurate answers as to how that photographer treats all of the models that they work with. Additionally, you should always ask models in a photographer's portfolio how long ago it was that they worked with them. This should go hand in hand with asking models who are in the photographer's portfolio how their experience was, because photographers can change over time. Some photographers that are on danger watch by the community will sometimes go into hiding for a little while, and then they hope that people will forget about them. So if you have trouble getting in touch with any of the models, or the models have said that they worked with this photographer way many years ago, that should be a red flag to you. Bottom line, I only work with photographers who have been current in the industry within the last year at the very least, and they have all of the models tagged in their portfolio that I can speak to directly. And the more models I can speak to, the better. I typically only work with photographers who work with many models. So many models, in fact, it's hard to count. And each photo must include a credited model. As a professional model, I see it as a huge red flag whenever a photographer has an anonymous model listed in a photo. Even if they're anonymous, that means the photographer's not working with true professionals. So why would they be wanting to hire you? If a photographer is willing to work with many professional models, this means that they care a lot about model photography. And it's very likely that they're going to want to uphold that reputation so that they can continue to work with even more professional models. It's always a great idea to let a friend know where you're going to be and who you're going to be with and when you plan to arrive and leave that photo shoot. It's also a great idea to let the photographer know at the beginning of the photo shoot that you have a friend on call that knows where you are. So that way, the photographer knows that someone else is keeping tabs on your whereabouts. It's not always possible to bring a friend with you to a photo shoot, especially if you're a full-time traveling freelance model, but by letting a friend know where you are at all times, like for example, I have a tracker on me in multiple locations throughout my luggage, myself, things that photographers wouldn't necessarily know that I have a tracker hooked up to, then you can keep yourself safe regardless if you're able to bring a friend or not. And the last question I'd like to answer about this is how on earth someone finds these photographers to work with. Well, when I started out, I used the website Model Mayhem to book many of my gigs, which still has maintained its relevancy even today. This is completely unsponsored, by the way. This is just the honest truth about how I find people to work with. Model Mayhem really is the go-to platform right now to schedule with photographers that are in the model photography industry as a freelance model. There are other model photography websites that are just as powerful, including Model Society and Purpleport. One Model Place also exists, but there's not a lot of activity on there currently. And the second most popular method of booking photo shoots is through finding photographers on social media. You can often find photographers in city or region-specific Facebook groups, and of course through Instagram. If you're having a hard time finding photographers in a particular area, try looking at models who are in that area and at their profiles to see who they're working with exactly. By getting a feel for who's working with who, this can really help jumpstart you into working with a good group of photographers right off the get-go. So as far as booking tours, that's the gist of it. I hope this video gave you some insight on the basics to booking tours. The most important thing is that you stay safe while traveling and while working at your photo shoots. Never slack off in your reference checking and background checks. And always let a friend know where you're going to be at all times. And with all that, you should be good to go. And remember, if you need more help at any time, I have lots of other videos here on this channel that you can use for reference. But if you do find yourself needing a more organized layout of all the tips that I have to share, I urge you to check out my course material linked in the description. I also offer one-on-one consults where I can help gauge your specific modeling career goals, and we can create a plan on how to achieve those goals. Thanks again for tuning into today's video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now!